Myths and legends have fascinated humankind since the dawn of man. Storytellers and writers share these tales of fantasy with their audiences, oftentimes exploring the darker side of human nature. With the dawn of the digital age, creepy stories once whispered over a campfire, shared by children exploring the woods, or penned in a journal with hopes of future publication, have found new life. Internet blogs, YouTube, wikis, and other shared forums give writers and storytellers a new way to share, making the experience come to life through digitized presentation. The technological age ushers in a new generation of thrill seekers, pre-teens who may have trouble discerning fact from fiction on the internet. Paper books checked out from the local library have clear classifications delineating fact from fiction. This is not the case on the internet. When vulnerable young people view content online, they oftentimes take it at face value, rarely questioning the validity of the source. In at least one case, two such young people crossed the line between fantasy and reality and committed a heinous crime in the name of the internet meme Slender Man. These two children claim Slender Man made them commit their crime, and perhaps in a way he did. One has to wonder if the rich interactive nature of online content contributes to a young person's inability to draw the line between fantasy and reality. I propose that repeated exposure to mixed media content can affect a young person's moral decision-making. After all, seeing is believing. Online contributions from multiple sources that may include supposedly first-hand encounters, actual photographs, and real-time video footage present fantasy as truth that may be accepted by impressionable young people as reality. On June 8, 2009, Eric Knudsen, also known as Victor Surge, submitted an image to a Photoshop contest on the Something Awful online forum featuring a character Surge named Slender Man. The cleverly altered image depicted a tall, bald, thin man wearing a dark suit who appeared to have appendages similar to tentacles. Other readers and online contributors were fascinated by the image and began submitting background stories featuring the fictitious character. Home videos showing the character were posted, additional altered photos depicting historic events with Slender Man's image in the background, and stories of supposedly first-hand encounters began to appear on various forums. Slender Man stories grew in popularity, and it didn't take long for a large fan base to develop. 29 of these stories were posted to a writer's wiki entitled creepypasta.com. The editor of the wiki says Slender Man has fans who indulge themselves by creating videos, games, and fan fictions about him. According to an article posted by NBC News on May 31, 2014, two 12-year-old girls stalked and attacked a third girl while playing hide and seek in the woods near their homes. Anissa Weir held the victim down while Morgan Geiser stabbed the girl with a 5-inch butcher knife 19 times. Leaving the victim to die in the woods, Weir and Geiser began to walk towards Nicollet National Forest in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The victim dragged herself to the road and was found by a passing cyclist who called for help. When the police picked the duo up a few hours later, their clothes were covered with blood, and Geiser had the knife in her backpack. The girls claimed they were on their way to Slender Man's mansion in the woods. After months of following tales of horror on the internet featuring Slender Man, these two little girls made a conscious decision to kill to gain his approval. This type of crime is considered an act of ostension. According to Lundberg, editor of ostension.org, the theory of ostension explains how easily certain elements can pass from legend to ritualized action. Entire legend plots can be reduced to an elusive action. If a narrative is widely known, individuals may become involved in real-life activities based on all or part of that narrative. This is ostension in action, when legend alters or shapes the behavior of people. Real events, patterned on urban legend, fact mirroring fiction. There are essentially three types of ostension: pseudo-ostension, proto-ostension, and quasi-ostension. Pseudo-ostension occurs when a person creates or performs a hoax to prove a legend is real. An example is creating giant footprints and claiming they were made by Bigfoot. Proto-ostension involves a person drawing from legend to create a supposedly personal encounter with the legend, such as claiming to be abducted by aliens. Quasi-ostension occurs when naturally occurring events are connected to a legend, such as the first snow being brought by Jack Frost, or Mother Nature's wrath causing a storm. Ostension can also occur when people act out events they have seen in a movie, television show, or read in print. Little children are frequently seen reenacting popular scenes from cartoons. The recent popularity of cosplay is another example of the attractive nature of ostension. Ostension is most frequently seen in our culture during the popular holiday, Halloween, when children and adults dress up like their favorite characters from books, television, films, myths, and legends. Not all texts will be the subject of ostensive action. Those that are deemed possible, those that fit in with personal and cultural themes, and those that engage the self-identity of a member of the folk community can be so used. Just as behavior can be the impetus for a rumor, rumor can spark a creative response that may in some ways shape the world. Role-playing and reenacting scenes from myths and legends is a popular theme of entertainment in today's culture. But something went seriously wrong with the Wisconsin girls' pseudo-ostension of Slender Man. Could repeated exposure to Slender Man stories through digital technology change the way the girls perceived right and wrong? The idea that moral reasoning and choice can be changed by repeated exposure to media content is nothing new. Advertisers have aimed a variety of heavily researched, clever techniques at the American consumer for decades. Many of those techniques have been geared specifically at children and not in the most attractive way. Julia Schor, a professor of sociology at Boston College, states in her article Selling to Children the Marketing of Cool, cool is also associated with an anti-adult sensibility, as ads portray kids with attitude, outwitting their teachers, and tricking their parents. Cool is about the taboo, the danger, the forbidden other. Schor discusses advertisers employing anti-adult themes. She says a related theme in some kid advertising is to promote behavior that is annoying, antisocial, or mischievous. If these are the themes commonly used to entice young people to buy, it seems plausible that these messages would cross over in a child's mind to everyday behavior, affecting their moral reasoning. Researchers continue to explore the long-term effects of violent television viewing and video game exposure on young people. There has been some speculation that ongoing exposure to violence through these medium creates a type of emotional desensitization for young people as well as adults. Others would argue that years of playing first-person shooter video games have never made them kill anyone, or that watching old vampire movies does not motivate them to bite other people on the neck. And yet sometimes things go wrong. Something caused those two girls to attack another child in the name of Slender Man. A recent study published in the Journal of Communication states, current approaches examining the role of moral representations in narrative media have begun to focus more on empirically derived descriptive definitions of morality and the processes that influence an individual to make judgments of right or wrong. Eden and fellow scientists conducted a 6-week study where 60 participants viewed soap operas. Before the viewing, the participants were surveyed concerning their moral ideas. After 6 weeks of viewing soap operas, the participants completed another survey. The researchers recorded a notable shift in moral decision choices when comparing the two survey responses. If something as benign as soap opera viewing can alter perceptions of right and wrong for adults, it stands to reason repeated exposure of violent content to children should have a similar effect. There is a great deal of conflicting research aimed at determining a correlation between violence in the media and childhood aggression. An article published in the Journal of Adolescent Health in August of 2012 claims, proponents of the view that violent video games do lead to real-world violence note behavioral, galvanic skin changes, and neuroimaging studies demonstrating desensitization to violence with repeated exposure. Opponents of the view acknowledge the laboratory and neuroimaging desensitization or habituation findings, but point out that these changes have not led to increases in real-world violence. The results of a 2011 study conducted jointly by the Iowa State University Sociology Department and that of the University of Minnesota concluded, it appears that children who consume high amounts of media violence are more likely to be physically aggressive toward their peers. An extensive longitudinal study published in Academic Pediatrics concludes the association between physical aggression and media violence is robust and persistent. Conversely, Christopher J. Ferguson, with the Department of Behavioral Applied Sciences and Criminal Justice, Texas A&M, conducted an extensive study of youth violence. This 2011 study took into consideration variables such as home life, socioeconomic status, and environmental factors. Ferguson concluded, results indicated that current levels of depressive symptoms were the strong predictor of serious aggression and violence across most outcome measures. Depressive symptoms also interacted with antisocial traits, so that antisocial individuals with depressive symptoms were most inclined toward youth violence. Neither video game violence exposure nor television violence exposure were prospective predictors of serious acts of youth aggression or violence. These results are put into the context of criminological data on serious acts of violence among youth. So, although it is popularly accepted that violent television and video game exposure increases aggression in children, that may not be the case. Both of the girls who perpetrated the Slender Man stabbing admitted to spending extensive time reading and viewing Slender Man-related media. It is impossible to say if these activities influence their moral decision-making ability and their levels of aggression. Related research has been conducted, but nothing specifically related to this or similar incidents. There are too many contrasting study results to say definitively that exposure to extensive internet viewing of a violent nature has a negative effect on viewers. New York Magazine reports that at least one of the girls has been diagnosed with a mental disorder. Psychiatrists say Morgan Geyser has had little treatment for her schizophrenia and no medication for the psychotic hallucinations she experiences and the voices that she hears. Dr. Kenneth Robbins says Geyser is even more lost in her imaginary world in her jail cell than she was when she allegedly stabbed her friend 19 times. We cannot conclude that online exposure to hours of digitally enhanced horror stories altered the ability of Anissa Weir and Morgan Geyser to understand the difference between right and wrong. The scientific community continues to study the long-term effects of extensive time spent online. CNN reports American adolescents spend an average of 9 hours a day using some type of digital media. Only time will tell how this level of media exposure will affect the behavior of our children. Ultimately, the responsibility falls on the parents to monitor the time and content of their children's internet usage. Experts recommend moving the computer to a central place in the home and setting rules about how much time is spent online. It is also important for parents to be internet savvy. Checking history folders and internet logs, learning about monitoring software, and installing filters all require a degree of computer savvy. It is important for every parent to learn the terms, both technical and popular, and be comfortable with a computer, at least enough to know what your child is doing online. Take an active interest in the internet and learn about where your child goes online.